And I thought, wow, I guess you don't have to be anything more than available to be used by God. There's a world out there that needs the things that God's given me. I've got a testimony, I've got talents, and God expects me to use them for His glory. That's another hurdle that people have to overcome, is the willingness to use their testimony for the cause of Christ.
Thank you for joining Mercy Today. How do mercy and compassion break down barriers and change everything? How do they bring hope? Be inspired as our guests share about the life-changing, soul-impacting work through the ministry of Mercy, Inc. and its partners. Here's your host, Dr. Dan Critchett.
Hey, we're glad to have you join us today for yet another episode of Mercy Today Radio. We get to tell the story of how compassion changes everything. And we get to tell the world about the great work of Mercy, Inc. and its fantastic partners. People devoting their lives to serving God and helping people. So where in the world are we going today? Well, we've been to Haiti and to Africa. We've been to Latin America and South Asia. Today, we're staying right here at home, talking about some of the great service projects here in the U.S. The travel restrictions due to COVID have really kept the mission teams and the service teams from overseas work. So this organization that we're talking to today has got some fantastic things going on here in our own country. There's plenty to do here at home with all the issues that we're dealing with. And the group we're talking to today, it's all about caring for people and stepping in to help in some amazing and life-changing ways. And what these guys are doing, I think, is going to touch your heart. So lean in and listen for what's going on. The title for today's episode is Mobilizing Men for U.S. Service Projects. So I want to welcome you to the discussion. I'm introducing Bill Evans, who is zooming into the studio today. And Bill is the U.S. Director of Men for Missions, which is a key partner of Mercy, Inc. So we keep talking about Mercy and its partners. Well, this is one of them. So again, the title for this episode is Mobilizing Men for U.S. Service Projects. So Bill Evans, thank you so much for zooming into the studio for this show, and welcome to Mercy Today Radio.
Thank you so much, Dan. It's a joy to be with you today.
You got a lot going on, so we're going to get into that. And I'm really excited about the projects that you talked about when we were on the phone and kind of getting ready for this show. So give us an update on the international restrictions that are due to COVID. I know it's really shut down a lot of the work. So we're sensitive to that. We want to be careful and safe and everything. So what is the update on the travel?
So we still are not sending out international teams, unfortunately, I say, but it's also the right decision.
Mm-hmm.
The travel restrictions are still in place. There are some countries where we could travel to that would not require any quarantine on that side, but there would still be quarantine on this side returning. And not many people are willing to give up a couple of weeks for quarantine for a 1-week mission trip.
Right, because then they have to quarantine when they come back too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's still the case, but you got 2 weeks over there, 2 weeks back here, and then a week in between. I mean, that's a lot of time away. So, but you guys, Bill, you're the U.S. Director for Men for Missions. And so this falls right into your space, doing some projects right here in our country. And you told me about a few. I want our listeners to hear these. So let's start with Hurricane Laura. A lot of damage, a lot of trouble, a lot of loss. What is Men for Missions going to be doing in that region, and where are you going to go? What are you going to do?
We immediately wanted to know how we could respond to Hurricane Laura, and of course it came ashore and pretty much pinpointed Lake Charles, Louisiana,
right.
Southwest Louisiana. Yeah. And so we started looking for a partner that we could work with to begin sending teams down to help with the aftermath of the hurricane. And one of our friends of Men for Missions happens to know a Baptist pastor down there in Lake Charles, and said that their church, which is Trinity Baptist Church, is already doing a lot of feeding. They're doing a lot of cleanup. They're doing a lot of demucking of the homes, tearing out drywall, that kind of thing. So they wanted to know how we could help them. And so I explained who Men for Missions is. And that's when we built a relationship, and they've asked us to come in as we can put together teams to help them.
What I'm hoping, Bill, is that people that are listening, particularly men, as you go through some of these kind of fine-tuned descriptions, that a man will say, gosh, you know what? I could help with that. I've got some experience or skills and so forth, and maybe that's something I could do. So, men, if you're thinking that way, something's catching you, something's tapping you on the shoulder, hang on. We'll give you some contact info, but just make a point of kind of keeping that in mind. So anything other specific, because we have a couple of others we want to talk about. What are the skill sets that would be needed for the cleanup in Hurricane Laura?
So we're really just looking for willing participants.
Okay.
There's trees that need to be cut up and reduced, and houses that need to be cleaned up. So not a lot of skill required, but a willing heart and willing hands.
A guy with a man with a chainsaw, that's a really manly thing, isn't it? I can just see it with a plaid flannel shirt, rolled up and with a hard hat on. He's out there sawing away. Okay.
Yeah, it makes me think of Tim Allen already. So,
Right. So let's go on. We got another project, the Wheeler Shelter. Tell us about that. That's a pretty exciting one.
So here in central Indiana, there's a Wheeler Ministries. And Wheeler ministers to men who are basically homeless, out on the streets, in need of shelter, in need of food, in need of the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Wheeler also has a ministry in what I'll call southern Indiana, Bloomington, down at the home of Indiana University. They have a camp down there where they send men on a longer term basis for recovery from addiction, alcoholism, that kind of thing. And it's called Camp Hebron. And so our hope is that we can put together work teams, again, skilled and semi-skilled men, anyone with willing hands, who can go down, work together with the people who run the camp and the men who are there for the addiction recovery, and be an ambassador for Jesus amongst these men, showing them what it means to be a man of God and helping them to work through the process that they're going through to get back into a right relationship with society, with God, and with fellow man.
What a great mission. I'm thinking that some men might be thinking, I've struggled with substance abuse or addictions, or I've had some issues there. If I could go and make a difference for somebody else with a saw and a rake or a shovel or a hammer, whatever else, that would be a contribution to helping other men who are dealing with the same thing. I like that. I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
I actually watched the video for the Wheeler Shelter, and I was very impressed. So you got your hands full, but what a great project there. Really helping people who are hurting and struggling.
Yeah.
So anything particular about Wheeler? We're going to go to the next one. If you got anything else on Wheeler.
Just as you said, just a great ministry that we're coming alongside with and partnering with. We don't have to have all the answers, but we want to partner with people who do have the answers and need a little bit of extra help.
Right, good. And I'm thinking maybe I haven't cleared this with the tech team, but if we could put the video for the Wheeler project that is on their website. I don't mean that from Men for Missions, but maybe we could do that. So if people go to our website, they can find that link too. So the third one that you have, Bill, is Wisdom's Gate. What's going on there?
So Wisdom's Gate is considered a rest ministry. So, and what I mean by that is that's a place where Christian men and women, pastors, missionaries, whatever, laymen, can go to get some rest and relaxation, to get some spiritual renewal, to really draw nearer to God and hear from Him. And so, again, we're partnering with a ministry, and in this case, Wisdom's Gate in Covert, Michigan, to help them with projects that they have around their campus. They've got a beautiful wooded plot of land with a lot of great opportunities for men and women to interact with nature. And so we just want to help them with all the maintenance projects that they have in the buildings and on the grounds.
I love it. I can just imagine, man, getting a sense of fulfillment. I mean, it's one thing to go to a football game or go to son's soccer practice or something, or do manly things. But to travel to one of these sites and to just come alongside other men who are wanting to lend of themselves, feel God's call, and to do something that makes a difference, I think that's it's very, very satisfying. So I want to ask you a couple of questions, Bill, and I'll just put them like this. Why would a man want to go on a mission trip like these? And what are some of the obstacles or the things that kind of get in the way? And I'll ask you those right after the break. So we'll be right back, folks.
I'm Brad Swinford with Salem Concrete Paving. It's a privilege to partner with Mercy, Inc., who provides hope to people around the world by meeting critical needs and introducing people to Jesus. I know that through Mercy, Inc., I'm investing in God's kingdom as they spread the love and gospel of Christ around the world. So please join me in supporting Mercy, Inc. and MercyToday Radio by praying or going to their website at mercytoday.global. Thank you.
Here is Mercy, Inc. Executive Director Doug Hoffman with another Mercy Minute.
Today I want to take you to Haiti. I want to talk to you about Bethesda Medical Clinic. Dr. Rodney there and his staff of 70 people, they've been around for over 60 years. And as they are there, they are making a difference in people's lives, not only physically by treating them for their medical issues, they're also bringing spiritual awareness to them. They're praying with every patient, not only at the time when they come in, but also as they're being healed. And that prayer difference is changing lives for eternity. They're leaving healed, or if they're taking medication and whatnot, they're going through that process. But if they can heal their soul for eternity, that is what Bethesda Medical Clinic is all about.
Now's the time to become a part of something greater in our community. You and your organization can partner with Mercy Today and change the lives of thousands around the world. Our team of business professionals can also come alongside you and help you grow your organization to maximize your impact. Our goal is to help you increase your quadruple bottom line: people, planet, profit, and purpose. Consider being a sponsor of Mercy Today. Visit our website at mercytoday.global.
We are talking with Bill Evans, who is the U.S. Director for Men for Missions. We just finished talking about some of the special projects that will be underway here in the U.S., and I find those pretty appealing and pretty attractive. And not that I have a lot of skills, and maybe some men listening can relate to that, but I would want to be there to support the good ministries that clean up from Hurricane Laura in the Lake Charles area, and then the Wheeler Shelter and the Wisdom's Gate. A lot of hurting people that are helped by these ministries, and if we can go and clear a brush or paint a wall or something, it's good stuff. We're making that contribution. So before the break, Bill, I mentioned a couple of questions. One is, why would a man want to go on one of these mission trips? What's the appeal? What's the draw?
One of the strongest appeals that we see, and we've been doing this since 1954,
Wow.
is men working together to accomplish something that they don't ordinarily do.
Mm.
And one of the things that I really love, Men for Missions has a tagline, and it is your life-changing journey. And that tagline is so appropriate, so real for men and their families who go on these journeys with us. Not only do their lives get impacted for the gospel, but they impact the lives of those they come in contact with, and maybe even those that, when they come home, those in their church and community get impacted as well.
I would imagine. Yeah. I think it's true that men who typically have a giving and generous heart, they want to do something that matters, something that makes a difference. And as a pastor for many, many years, I know I would go on a visitation, to a hospital patient or to a nursing home. And I say, well, my job is to go and bless these people with, pastor's presence and, read a Bible verse and talk with them. Almost without exception, every time I finished up driving home, I'm the one that was blessed. It is just amazing. Yeah, so I'm under a feeling that maybe these men will catch that same vision. So What about, some men are thinking, oh man, I don't know if that's for me. What are the obstacles, do you think, from a man who might be coming into his head right now?
It seems to me that the hardest thing for a man oftentimes is just to say yes. They don't know what to expect. They don't know exactly what they're going to be doing or where they're going to be going. And so they're reluctant because of the unknown. And so when they just say yes to Jesus, he takes care of all the details. And as you said, they end up being more blessed than they were a blessing, which is so many times the case.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. I think what it is, many of us, want to make sure everything's lined out, planned out, spreadsheets, flow charts, everything else. Then we can step into the known. But it sounds like what you're suggesting, Bill, is to invite men to step into the unknown and knowing that God's going to be with them, going to guide and going to develop some fantastic relationships and come home just really feeling maybe very tired, but very, very fulfilled by doing the work that you're outlining.
Yeah. And the beautiful part is we try to take care of all the logistical work so that all they've got to do is pack their bags, get on the plane and show up.
Yeah.
So
I like that. So these men, what I know also is that I've never had a man in one of my churches that comes back from a mission trip of any kind unchanged. They never come back unchanged. It makes a long-term positive difference for them. So that's the appeal. And maybe you can tell a couple of stories about some men that have been on one of these trips, any of the ones that you know about, even international ones. But who can you tell about that would inspire us?
Let me tell you quickly about a young man, a 13-year-old boy who went to Covert, Michigan with his grandfather on our very first trip there to Covert, Michigan, and to the Wisdom's Gate Ministries. What he did was interact with all these men. I think there were 7 men on the trip, and then this young boy, not young exactly, and he was so blessed through the testimonies of the men telling their stories of what God had done in their lives that he went home. He was telling his sister about all the things he saw God do and the testimonies that he heard while he was on this trip in Covert, Michigan. His sister ended up praying to receive Jesus and got baptized. And so this grandfather just obeyed God, invited his grandson to go, and God had his way in that young man's heart and in his sister's heart.
That's amazing. I think a lot of men can relate to, I'm going to go, I'm going to help others, and I'm going to be blessed. But I want to think about who can be blessed by my ministry back home, my family, my church, at work, in my neighborhood. That's great.
Yeah.
Another story?
Yeah, let me tell you about a young man who went to Colombia with us, Colombia, South America, on an evangelism team. So we've been sending evangelism teams down there to do door-to-door evangelism using the EvangeCube. This young man came back from that trip just incredibly on fire for the Lord. And he had learned at the beginning of the trip, he had learned about Men for Missions and who they are and our connection with OMS and our connection with Mercy Inc. And when he came back, he said, Men for Missions changed my life, this journey that I went on with them. And so he decided that he would like to be a part of Men for Mission. And so 2 years ago today, it was his first day in our office as our U.S. ministry team's director.
I think of the word contagious.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It gets around. I bet you have a handful of, or a pocket or a file folder full of stories like these. So for the sake of our time here on the radio, let's go to, there's been a change, an updating in your training. And what you mentioned on the phone was training for the team leaders. I'd like to know how that goes and who is selected and what kind of training they get, and also training for the team members. But first, maybe, again, to establish the framework, and maybe this is a new expression for your new training. What is the why of Men for Missions?
Yeah. So the why of Men for Missions, first of all, our vision statement is our goal is the Lordship of Jesus Christ in each man's heart, at home, and around the world.
Mhm.
And our mission statement then is to challenge men to do, go, and give whatever God asks of them.
Wow. That makes it pretty personal, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
It really, really does.
I like that. So how do you go about selecting team leaders, and what's their training like?
So we'll work, this happens in a number of ways, but most often churches come to us and they say, we would like to take a team somewhere to do something. We find the opportunity, work with the field. They may have a person in mind to be their team leader. And so we'll work with them to figure that out. Or it may be that they want one of our Men for Missions regional directors or staff here in Greenwood to go with them. And so one of us will be the team leader. So it happens a couple different ways. And from there, we jump into the training that we want to do with them.
Yeah. And can you just mention some of the key elements of that training? What is a team leader, particularly if he's not part of your staff?
Yeah. The key for the team leader is to understand and to prepare his team, his or her team.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've got a training manual that helps them through that, understanding who they are, how they act and react, helping them to prepare for what they'll see and experience on the field, helping them through the travel that they're going to have. What are the packing instructions? How much can I take on this airplane, and so on. So there's a whole gamut of things that are very, very important because they make the trip much better for everyone who goes when all these questions are in.
And some men are designed for leadership, and this would be a great role for them. I just got the signal from the engineer. We are running out of time. I want to kind of wrap up this part, but I don't want to leave that topic of training for team members. I know a lot of men are thinking, well, I don't want to just go cold. I don't want to just walk into something totally unknown. If I can get some training or orientation ahead of time, that would really soothe my mind a little bit. Maybe I could step a little bit further toward that yes. So tell us about the training for team members.
So it's very important to us that team members are as well prepared for their journey as they can be. So it's not only important for us, but it's also important to them, because once they get all those questions answered of what am I going to be doing? How do I get there? Who's going to meet me? How much money do I need? When they get all the questions answered, then they're more open to hearing from God and following Him while they're on their short-term journey. But ahead of that, there's spiritual things that need addressed. What does it mean to be part of a team? How can I relate best within this team? What areas do I best fit in regards to the project or the ministry that we're going to be doing? So there's so many areas that we try to cover in our team member training that is really important for a man or for a team member. It can be a woman as well, but men and their families, we often say, it's important for them to have all their I's dotted and T's crossed so that they can be more fully prepared for what God wants to do.
And how is this training delivered? Is it Zoom calls, or what is it? How do you do that?
So for right now, we have it set up as a manual, as a paper manual.
Oh, okay.
But we are also working diligently to partner with an organization that has it virtually, and so you can go through it at your own pace. You can do it together as a team, and all of that is tracked, and we can follow that and know where each team member is in their training and help them with the questions, concerns, whatever. So we're working diligently to move our training that direction as well.
Yeah, we're watching our time here. So, Bill, any concluding words based on what you've said so far?
The concluding word would be, why not? It's just a question to you men who are listening in your families. Why not serve the Lord in this way and help expand the kingdom of God so that others hear about Jesus and are drawn to Him and will spend eternity with God in heaven?
Wow, can't go wrong with that. Thank you very much. I guess that would be an invitation to any man that's listening, or a wife or a daughter or a sister of a man who they think might enjoy this kind of a challenge and opportunity. Mobilizing Men for U.S. Service Projects. It's Bill Evans, the U.S. Director for Men for Missions. Bill, I want to thank you so much for zooming in to the studio today, and I wish you God's blessings on all of those 3 projects we talked about and on everything else you have going. You've got your hands full in the U.S. because we're kind of stuck here. We can't go overseas, so you're on the spot. I bet you're enjoying it.
Yep, indeed. Thank you so much.
On the afterwards, I also want to ask about your shirt. Okay, that's it, folks. Now we're going to come right back for a final word.
How do you multiply your time, talent, and treasures? By investing in Mercy Today. Whether it's going on a mission outreach halfway around the world or sharing your insights and experiences with others in our local community, our team of business professionals can help you multiply what God has given you. We can help you grow your organization so that you and your fellow work associates can utilize your talents for even greater causes as you multiply your resources to do even more. Join us and become a sponsor of Mercy Today. Visit our website at MercyToday.global. Have you been looking for new ways to grow your organization and have a lasting, eternal impact? Mercy Today has an amazing team of business professionals that have managed small businesses to large corporations, and we want to share that know-how and experience with you. We're also committed our lives to sharing the gospel with compassion and serving the practical needs of communities around the world. Partner with us and become a sponsor of Mercy Today. Visit our website at MercyToday.global.
This is Doug Hoffman, Executive Director for Mercy, Inc. Just thanking you for listening to MercyToday.global.
I just love the work of Men for Missions, a very ambitious, spirit-led, God-filled organization doing great things and really serving the men of the U.S. and challenging them and helping them get meaningfully involved in different projects. If you have questions about today's topic or anything for Bill, any questions or any comments, suggestions, go to our website, MercyToday.global. Let us know. Just fill in the contact form, give us a hint, and we'll pass any references on. And we're going to see if we can put up that video for Wheeler Shelter. So I'm just really delighted to be able to bring these shows to you. Thank you for listening today. And this is Mercy Today Radio, telling the story of how compassion changes everything. I'm your host, Dr. Dan Critchett, wrapping this episode. Join us again. Find out where in the world we'll be going next. God bless you, and goodbye for now. Now, this is the AfterWords portion of our studio time here, and we've had the before words and the during words, and now this is the afterwards. Anything that we kind of didn't get enough detail on or any additional things, we're going to chat just a little bit here additionally with Bill Evans, the U.S. Director for Men for Missions. And Bill, we left off, and you're asking a man to consider stepping away from that comfort zone. And I would say to him as a pastor, I would say to men in my church, I would say, yeah, that's the whole point. Because stretch it out a little bit, and a little adventure, a little faith step, and see what God will do in your life and then through your life when you come back and the influence that you can have. I appreciate the story about the grandfather, his grandson and his granddaughter, just a profound impact because he was willing to go. And maybe and I don't know how that invitation went, who came first? Did the grandfather sign up and try to bring his grandson or the other way around? But great stories. I'm sure you have a ton of those. So, So the training. And so what we're trying to do is kind of eliminate some of the obstacles, maybe some of the more scary unknowns. If we know that we're entering into a challenging area, it's okay. if we kind of know a little bit about it, not to just totally walk into the dark, because there might be a big cliff right there. So, yeah. Well, you seem to me, Bill, to be mild-mannered and a good leader and a guy who would make men comfortable and feel safe and feel challenged, and I appreciate that. So I can't help but notice your shirt, your T-shirt, and for those who don't have visual, I won't help, but it says sent. I can't see the whole. There it is. So tell us. It says.
So send me. So basically, Jesus said, "As the Father has sent me, I also send you."
Oh, there you
go. So this actually is a shirt regarding Haiti that a friend gave me.
Yeah.
And she had just gone on her first mission trip to Haiti, and so she sent me this just as a thank you.
Great. I love it. What a great message. So a couple minutes more, Bill. Can we rewind back to those projects and see if we can pick up another detail or two? Because if a man's listening and saying, well, tell me something that maybe I could do. We take that unknown away.
Sure.
Let's start with Hurricane Laura. What is that? Is it cleanup, or is it, what is it? Is it hauling trailers, or what is it?
Good question. So in the conversations that we've had, it's disaster relief.
Okay.
And so you're putting tarps on roofs that have been severely damaged to give them shelter from the elements.
Mm-hmm.
You're cleaning up debris both outside the house, inside the home. You might be cutting off the bottom 3 feet of drywall that was damaged by water.
Okay.
Light construction. When I say light construction, I just mean, repairing some walls maybe, or taking care of things in and around the home that need to be cared for. There might be some chainsaw work of clearing trees that have fallen, maybe through a roof or in a yard or on a car, something to that effect. So there are so many different ways that people can be used, and you never know from day to day on this journey. You don't know what you might be doing tomorrow, so it's always something new. As you accomplish one project, you move on to another.
Yeah. So I hosted a trip to the Holy Land recently, and we had 3 mottos. One was be flexible, because we're not really sure how everything's going to work out day to day. So that sounds like that's helpful. But how long is that trip?
So what we're typically asking folks to do is consider going down on a Saturday. Maybe they'll spend Sunday in worship with the local church there.
Okay.
And then they work Monday through Friday and come home Saturday.
Okay. About a week.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's switch to Wheeler Shelter again. I was very impressed with their video, particularly the mission of what they're trying to accomplish for men. And I'm saying men, but is it primarily for men, the Wheeler Shelter?
Yeah, the shelter downtown Indianapolis certainly would be, because that's who you're dealing with is totally men. We actually have had some women go with us to the camp, but not many. You're primarily dealing with men there also, and so you really want to stay on that same gender level, and you'll have far more impact that way. So typically.
And what are they at the downtown shelter then? Is that where this project is going to be?
So the downtown shelter does have some projects coming up. We don't currently have anything with them, but they've got an old building that they use, and of course it can use maintenance and that sort of thing. Yeah. They're not currently looking for us to help them with anything, but they do have our number, and so they're looking forward to have us help with projects in the future. The Bloomington, Indiana camp is definitely looking for teams for people to come with help them with landscaping, removing timber, painting projects, all those sort of little things that they can't get to because of time and maybe their abilities, or just they don't have that skill set maybe. So it's plenty of opportunity.
And they make a very visible difference, right, when they do some of that.
That's right.
Cleanup and stuff. Yeah. So wonderful. Wheeler Shelter. And then Wisdom's Gate. Let's finish with that one.
Yeah. So that one too, as I just looked through their information, they shared that they need to cut down some trees, clear brush, They have to fill some dirt and sand because of ruts that are made, do some off-roading, and you start to tear up the land a little bit. And so repairing that as necessary. Installing a barbed wire fence around the perimeter. Don't know about you, but I'm probably all thumbs when it comes to that. But installing some boardwalk for walking out at a lake, I believe it is. Clearing brush, down limbs, burning brush, weather permitting, of course, weeding and mulching, caring for the flower beds, flower gardens, mowing, spot painting, just all kinds of projects. If you've got a hand that knows which end of a paintbrush or a shovel to hold, you could probably be used for God's glory.
I like that. And if you don't?
Well, come along anyway, and we'll help you to learn.
There you go. I like that. I think that's a lot of detail, and I think men will be able to connect with, relate to some of those projects. And I really like the multi-level, that you're doing something with your hands and your heart, you're investing in somebody else's future, and you're giving of yourself, answering that call. But also there's a great benefit. I mean, you'll never forget that trip, right? And you'll meet other men who you might continue connecting with over time, new friends, new soulmates, or, depending upon how God orchestrates those relationships. And then the thing that really intrigues me is the ongoing relationship that the man will have, or the ongoing influence that he will have from that time on, because most of these men will be changed in some very significant ways, and change probably that's needed, change that God would welcome in that man's life. So I really appreciate all that. So in the last little bit of time, Bill, I know not everybody will be able to have the visual here, the video, but would you speak to men who are listening, and it's whether they're listening at the radio broadcast or any time down the road on the podcast, just speak to them directly and invite them to come on a trip.
Yeah. So, men, here's my plea. Back in 1998, I didn't think I could be used by God. After all, I was just a construction electrician. I didn't have any letters after my last name, so I couldn't be a missionary, right? But I saw a couple of my friends who said yes to God and went on a short-term mission trip. And I heard their story of how God used them. And I thought, wow, I guess you don't have to be anything more than available to be used by God. And so I said, well, I do have an electrical trade. Maybe I can, and I love to share the word of God. So maybe I can be used on a short-term trip. And so my very first trip was to India, which was probably unique for a first-time trip, but it really changed my heart. It moved me in ways that I just never could have imagined. I saw things that were wonderful. I saw things that really challenged me spiritually. For instance, people worshiping the god of the sun and the moon and such, washing at the Ganges River in order that they might die and be cremated and thrown on the Ganges, and then they come back in their next life at a higher level. So that kind of spiritual challenge just wrecked me, and it made me understand that there's a world out there that needs the things that God's given me. I've got a testimony, I've got talents, and God expects me to use them for His glory. So do you, men. You've got a testimony that God has touched you, moved you, and people need to hear that. And that's one of the things, I think that's another hurdle that people have to overcome is the willingness to use their testimony for the cause of Christ.
I like it. Thank you very much. That was great. Would I be correct to say, Bill, that you had before India and then everything after, and now you're the U.S. Director for Men for Missions? Would you go back? Would you go back to your life before India?
Oh, not a chance. I've just found so much fulfillment in the adventure that God has taken me on. Stephen Curtis Chapman sings a song called "The Great Adventure," and that's what I feel like I'm on. It's just saddle up your horses. We got a trail to blaze.
I like that. We're going to end with that. That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Bill, for any listeners, go to our website, MercyToday.global. We'll get you in touch with Bill, and he'll outline whatever service projects are available. More will be coming online, but let us know, and we'll get that connection made with Bill and Men for Missions. Thanks again, Bill. This has been fantastic, very inspirational for me personally. I appreciate it. God bless you.
Thank you, Dan, and God bless you as well.
Thank you. Thank you. That's it, folks. We're leaving for now, and a lot of good stuff. Just come back for our next show and our next podcast. God bless you.